The email arrived before sunrise, glowing on Ethan Parker's phone like a secret too big to hold. 3 first-class tickets to Europe. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. 7 days of luxury. For a moment, he forgot the quiet Boston apartment around him, forgot the years of overtime, and skipped weekends. This was it. This was the moment he had worked toward, the moment he could finally give his parents something unforgettable. And share it with them. Ethan sat up, heart pounding, already imagining his mother standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, his father smiling in a way he rarely did. His parents had given him everything, growing up: patience, stability, love. They never complained, never asked for more. This trip wasn't just travel. It was gratitude. By the time the sun rose, Ethan had printed the itineraries and slipped them into a clean envelope. He didn't want to wait. That evening, he drove north to his parents' home in New Hampshire, rehearsing how he would surprise them. He pictured laughter, maybe tears, maybe his mother saying his name. It's the way she did when she was overwhelmed with pride. Dinner was already prepared when he arrived. The house smelled warm and familiar. His mother, Linda, hugged him tightly. His father, Robert, clapped him on the shoulder and asked about work. Everything felt right, almost too perfect. After dessert, Ethan cleared his throat and reached into his jacket. The envelope felt heavier than paper. He placed it on the table and slid it toward his parents. "I have something for you," he said. Linda opened it slowly. Her eyes moved across the pages, then widened. She covered her mouth with her hand. Robert leaned closer, reading every line carefully. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Europe," Linda whispered. "Ethan, this can't be real." "It's real," Ethan said, smiling. "1 week. We'll go together." Robert stood up and hugged him. It was a strong hug, the kind his father rarely gave. "You didn't have to do this," he said, voice low. "But thank you." Ethan felt a deep relief. This was exactly how he had imagined it. Almost Linda sat back down, still holding the papers. Her smile faded just slightly, enough for Ethan to notice. She glanced at Robert, then back at Ethan. "There's something we should talk about," she said gently. Ethan's smile froze. "What is it?" Linda folded the papers carefully. "We were thinking, maybe Claire should go instead of you." The words landed hard. Ethan blinked. Claire. His sister's name hung in the air. Claire, his younger sister, had moved back home after quitting her job the year before. She was searching for purpose, she said. Ethan had helped where he could, quietly and without complaint. "I thought this was a family trip," Ethan said, choosing his words carefully. "It is," Robert replied. "But Claire has been struggling. This could help her." New places. New energy. Ethan felt a tight pressure in his chest. "I plan to go with you," he said. "I wanted to be there." Linda reached across the table and touched his hand. "You're strong, Ethan. You're settled." "Claire is lost right now." The room felt smaller. Ethan nodded slowly, even as disappointment settled deep inside him. He had imagined walking those streets with his parents, hearing their stories, watching them experience the world. Now, that picture was fading. "If that's what you want," he said quietly. Relief washed over Linda's face. "Thank you for understanding." Ethan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That night, he drove home in silence. The city lights blurred past him as memories surfaced: college days when Claire's needs came first. Family plans reshaped around her uncertainty. Ethan had never resented her. But tonight, something felt different. At home, he placed the envelope on his kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. The trip still existed, just not for him. The next morning, he contacted the airline and requested a name change. The confirmation email arrived minutes later. His seat was gone. Days passed quickly after that. His parents talked excitedly about packing. Claire called him, voice bright with surprise and gratitude. "I can't believe you did this," she said. "I really needed a reset." "I hope it helps," Ethan replied honestly. The night before their flight, Ethan visited again. The house buzzed with energy. Suitcases lined the hallway. Claire talked endlessly about cafes and museums she wanted to see. Linda looked happier than Ethan had seen her in years. At the door, Linda hugged Ethan tightly. "We'll bring you back something special," she said. Ethan smiled. "Just enjoy it." The next morning, he watched their plane take off on a flight tracking app. 3 dots moving east across the screen. He closed the app and went to work. Paris arrived for them before Ethan even finished a project meeting. Photos started coming in by the second day. His parents smiling, Claire laughing. Beautiful places Ethan had only seen in books. At night, alone in his apartment, Ethan scrolled through the pictures. He wasn't angry, just quiet. He wondered when doing the right thing had started to feel like standing still. Then, on the 4th day of the trip, his phone buzzed with a message from his mother. "This has been amazing." "Thank you again, son." Ethan stared at the screen and typed back. "I'm glad you're happy." He meant it, but as he placed his phone down and looked out at the city below, a question stayed with him, one he couldn't shake. What happens to the person who always steps aside? And somewhere across the ocean, the answer was already beginning to take shape. The first photo arrived at midnight, and Ethan's heart sank before he even opened it. His parents were in Paris, standing along the Seine, umbrellas tucked under arms, laughter frozen in a moment he should have shared. Claire was in the frame too, grinning at a cafe table, a croissant in hand, sunlight turning her hair gold. The caption read, "Living the dream." "Thanks, Ethan." Ethan set his phone down slowly. "Living the dream. Without me?" he muttered. He tried to focus on work, on routines, but every notification seemed to remind him that the trip he had meticulously planned, saved for and imagined, had become someone else's story. It wasn't anger that settled over him, but a strange mix of emptiness and longing. He felt like a spectator in the life he had wanted to share with his family. The days stretched on, and each photo, each short video clip from Claire, deepened that feeling. She was glowing in Rome, sketching fountains, holding up a gelato like it was the crown jewel of her life. Ethan could see how much she was transforming, how the trip was filling a gap he had always known she carried. He wanted to be happy for her, truly, but it stung too much. He felt invisible, almost as if his generosity had paved the path for someone else's growth while leaving him behind. Then came the message. Short, simple. "We need to talk when I get back." Ethan stared at it, heart hammering. Claire never sent messages like this. She wasn't the type to plan conversations. He wondered what had changed, what she had learned, what he had missed. He spent the next 3 weeks replaying every interaction with his parents and Claire, searching for clues, but nothing explained the quiet weight in his chest. Finally, the day arrived. Ethan stood at the arrivals hall at Logan Airport, scanning every face, counting the travelers as they came through the gate. Linda and Robert emerged first, looking refreshed, their faces lighter, carrying suitcases that barely contained the memories of Europe. Behind them, Claire walked with a confidence Ethan hadn't seen in years. She seemed taller, more present, a spark in her eyes that wasn't there before. The car ride home was quiet at first. His parents recounted moments from cafes, museums, and fountains, sharing stories with laughter and nostalgia. Claire sat beside him, almost vibrating with excitement. And gradually the truth spilled out. She had met someone in Rome, a travel photographer named Alex. It wasn't a fleeting crush. It was real. They connected over art, history, and shared dreams. Alex had encouraged Claire to apply for a remote marketing position she never thought she could handle. It was an opportunity that would finally give her independence. Ethan nodded, listening, feeling a mixture of pride and a small, quiet ache. He had known Claire needed a reset, but he hadn't expected it to be this profound, or that he would be entirely absent from the experience. He congratulated her genuinely and smiled when she described her plans. But there was a hollow place in him, space reserved for a trip that had belonged to him in imagination, but was no longer his reality. Days blurred into weeks. Ethan returned to his routine, but everything felt slightly off. Coffee tasted weaker, emails seemed longer, and the apartment echoed with the quiet of missed laughter. He tried to fill the void with work, evening runs, even old hobbies, but nothing touched the space left behind. Then, one rainy afternoon, he wandered into a small bookstore near his office, seeking the comfort of familiarity. Among the shelves, he spotted her Emily Carter, a travel writer from Vancouver, browsing guidebooks with a thoughtful expression. She glanced up, noticed the Paris guidebook in his hands, and smiled. "Planning a trip?" she asked. Ethan laughed softly. "Not anymore," he admitted, shrugging. She tilted her head, intrigued, and that simple curiosity sparked a conversation that stretched through the afternoon. Emily didn't just ask questions, she listened. Really listened to the story of the lost trip. The selflessness, the quiet sacrifices. Her eyes held understanding, not judgment. And for the first time since the plane had taken his family and sister away, Ethan felt seen. Coffee led to dinner. Dinner led to long walks in the city, conversations about art, books, and life. Emily's presence was steady, warm, and unassuming. She didn't fix the emptiness left by the European trip. But she offered something more profound, a chance to feel alive again, to reclaim the space that had been empty. Ethan began to notice little things. The way her laughter echoed without effort, the spark in her eyes when she spoke of distant cities, the calm reassurance in her voice when he shared doubts. Months passed. The world turned, leaves fell, snow melted, and spring emerged with a quiet brilliance. Emily and Ethan had grown close, their bond rooted in conversations and shared silences. One evening, as they sat overlooking the Charles River, Emily spoke softly. "You didn't lose anything," she said. "You made room. You gave someone else a chance, and that's beautiful. But your life? It's waiting for you, too." Ethan realized she was right. His generosity hadn't been in vain, had created new beginnings for Claire, for his parents, and for himself, even if he hadn't seen it at first. He had stepped aside, and in doing so, he discovered the strength to step forward, to embrace opportunities he had ignored while focusing on others. Then, one quiet night, he booked a trip. Just one ticket. Paris again. This time, the destination wasn't a gift for anyone but himself. The memories, the cities, the streets filled with light and history, it was a reclamation of his own story. And when the airport gate finally appeared before him, he wasn't alone. Emily was there, suitcase in hand, eyes bright with anticipation. Together, they stepped toward the plane, toward a journey that felt chosen, not surrendered. As the aircraft lifted off, Ethan looked out the window at the shrinking city below. The wind rushed past, carrying him over the ocean and toward possibilities. He realized that sometimes being left behind wasn't a failure, was preparation. Preparation to embrace love, adventure, and the life he had imagined but never fully pursued. Claire had found her spark, his parents had experienced their dreams. And now he had a chance to find his own. By the time the plane began its descent, Ethan felt a quiet thrill. Europe awaited, but it wasn't just about cities or landmarks. It was about connection, growth, and the unexpected paths life opens when you least expect it. He turned to Emily, who squeezed his hand. She didn't need words. He understood. They were stepping into a story of their own making. Ethan smiled, letting the past melt away. The trip he had lost had led him to something he hadn't even imagined: love, excitement, and the courage to chase his own dreams. Sometimes the moments you give away come back in ways you never thought possible, teaching you that life has a rhythm all its own. And that joy often arrives when you stop waiting for it. As the plane touched down, Ethan felt it clearly: the quiet power of selflessness, the unexpected beauty of chance encounters, and the certainty that, even when life diverts your plans, it still has a way of leading you exactly where you need to be. And with Emily by his side, every new street, every cobblestone, and every sunset in Europe felt like a story they would write together. One full of heart, hope, and the kind of love that made every lost moment worth it.